Hello and welcome to A Stranger in Roma. Today we are walking Rome in the simplest way possible because there are as many ways to visit this city as there are streets to get lost in. So today, no complicated itinerary, no heroic detours. We start at Porta del Popolo and we simply walk down Via del Corso all the way to the Vittoriano. Of course, Rome never lets you walk in a straight line for too long. So, along the way, we will allow ourselves a few perfectly justified digressions. A church tucked behind the facade, a square just few steps away, a detail you would miss if you were in a hurry. This is an easy, light way to discover the historic center. No pressure, no checklist, no need to know where you're going next. Just follow the street, follow your curiosity, and let Rome reveal itself. Via del Corso begins long before it gets this name. In antiquity, this street was a natural continuation of Via Flaminia, the Great Roman road that connected Rome to the north of Italy. For centuries, this axis guided travelers straight into the heart of the city. The name Corso comes much later. During the Renaissance, this long straight street became the stage for horse races, le corse dei cavalli. The horses would run from Piazza del Popolo all the way down to what is now Piazza Venezia. The finish line was here, next the Vittoriano, watched from above by the Pope himself. And this is why, even today, in almost every Italian city, the main street is called Corso, not by chance, but by tradition. If you arrive by metro, you step out at Flaminio, just outside Porta del Popolo. Despite its name, this was not originally the People's Gate, but the ceremonial entrance for travelers, ambassadors, and pilgrims arriving from the north. That's why the most decorated facade faces outward, towards those about to enter Rome. The gate, as we see it today, was redesigned in the 17th century by Bernini for the arrival of Queen Christina of Sweden, meant to impress before you even cross the threshold. Once inside the city, the gate becomes more restrained because the spectacle, at this point, was Rome itself. Immediately on the left, Santa Maria del Popolo, a church full of stories, power, miracles, and masterpieces, including works by Caravaggio. Today we're only stopping for a brief look, but if you'd like to go deeper, there is a full episode of the Christmas Code dedicated to Santa Maria del Popolo. You will find the link in the top right corner. And now we step through the gate and let Via del Corso lead us to Rome. Piazza del Popolo may feel perfectly balanced today, but what you're looking at is the result of a very deliberate redesign. In the early 19th century, architect Giuseppe Valadier reshaped the square to turn it into a true urban stage, a monumental entrance to Rome. He softened the edges, organized its perspectives, and gave the piazza the harmony it has today. At the center, the ancient Egyptian obelisk, brought to Rome in antiquity, long before the square even existed. Valadier placed it at the heart of the composition, anchoring the entire space around it, past, present, and movement aligned. At its base, 4 lions. They are not ancient, but neoclassical, designed to echo Egypt while speaking the language of the 19th century Rome. From their mouths flow the waters of Rome, turning the obelisk into a fountain, monumental but alive. On either side of the square, two almost identical fountains respond to each other, one dedicated to Neptune, the other to the goddess Roma. They frame the piazza, balancing water, architecture, and light. And above it all, the Pantheon Hill. Valadier also designed the elegant ramps and terraces that connect the square to the Pantheon. A gentle ascent opening onto one of Rome's most beautiful viewpoints. Not a dramatic climb, but a transition from the city to the sky, from movement to pause. But for now, we stay at ground level and let the Piazza del Popolo guide us gently toward Via del Corso. Before we step onto Via del Corso, one last pause. Facing each other, two churches often mistaken for twins. Santa Maria dei Miracoli on one side and Santa Maria in Monte Santo on the other. Let's start with Santa Maria dei Miracoli. Built in the 17th century, it owes its name to a miraculous image of the Virgin once venerated by the people of Rome. Its plan is simple, circular, almost serene, a calm presence at the edge of a very busy square. Despite appearances, these churches are not true twins. They were built on different plots with different constraints, and their interiors are not the same. But Rome, always attentive to perspective, adapts their facades, domes and proportions to make them appear symmetrical when seen from the piazza. An architectural illusion, perfectly Roman. On the other side, Santa Maria in Monte Santo, also known as the Church of the Artists. For decades, it has been closely linked to Rome's artistic and cultural life. Many figures from the world of cinema, theater and music have been celebrated here, their funerals turning the square into a quite collective moment. And then there is the everyday life of the piazza. Each church has its cafe nearby. Each cafe has its regulars, artists, writers, passers-by, observers of the square. For decades, just like Fellini once did, they sit here watching, commenting, interpreting the theater of Roman life unfolding in front of them. And now, with the piazza behind us, we enter Via del Corso. Today, it is a street for everyone, the Sunday promenade, the bustling shopping destination, a place to see and be seen. Romans stroll, tourists wonder, and the rhythm of the city unfolds along its straight historic line. On the left, the Casa di Goethe, the German writer's home during his Roman stay in the late 18th century. A quiet reminder that even amidst the crowds and commerce, Via del Corso has always inspired art, thought and literature. Just a little further along, still on the left, the official AS Roma shop. Flags, scarves and jerseys fill the window, a cheerful explosion of red and yellow, where football passion takes center stage. And here I take a little pause to send a kiss to Theodore, my nephew, the spitting image of Dybala. Yes, we are lucky in the family. So, from history to sport, from culture to family, Via del Corso is not just a street, it is Rome's heartbeat. Familiar, vibrant and irresistible alive. On the left, Santissimi Nomi di Gesù e Maria in Via Lata. Discreet on the outside, deeply rooted in Rome's early Christian history. Built along the ancient Via Flaminia, a place traditionally linked to the presence of St. Paul in Rome. Further down on the right, San Giacomo in Augusta, long associated with care, pilgrimage and charity. A reminder that Via del Corso was never only about movement and spectacle, but also about shelter and humanity. Around them, palaces and buildings line the street with quiet confidence, noble facades hiding courtyards, centuries of Roman life layered in stone. With the Jubilee, the Caput Mundi program and major public and private funding, Rome has been quietly reinventing itself over the past few years. Streets, squares, fountains and facades, the city is taking the time to restore what time has softened. And right now, this is the turn of this basilica, Santa Ambrogio e Carlo al Corso. Also known as the Church of the Lombards, it was built in the 17th century as the national church for Lombard community in Rome. Construction began in 1612 and continued well into the second half of the century. Its plan follows the great tradition of the Counter-Reformation, a Latin cross designed to guide the eyes, the body and the face towards the altar. The facade, monumental and restrained, sets the tone. Above it all rises the dome, designed by Pietro da Cortona, one of the great masters of Roman baroque. A dome meant not just to be seen from within, but to mark Via del Corso itself, asserting a presence and rhythm along the street. Today, as scaffolding surrounds it, the basilica is temporarily hidden. But this, too, is part of Rome's cycle, covering, restoring, revealing. Rome doesn't erase the past, it polishes it, slowly, patiently, and then gives it back to the city. Just behind the basilica, Rome suddenly falls into itself. In just a few steps, you find a condensed summary of the city, history fitting into the palm of your hand. Piazza Augustus Imperator opens the scene. At its heart, the Mausoleum of Augustus, built in the 1st century before Christ, once the monumental tomb of Rome's first emperor. For centuries forgotten, it now stands at the center of a renewed urban space. In the background, there are Pacis, the altar dedicated to peace, commissioned by Augustus to celebrate stability and prosperity after years of war. Ancient Rome, measured, symbolic, and political. Turn around and the language changes. The rear of the basilica speaks the baroque of the Counter-Reformation, theatrical, persuasive, designed to move hearts as much as minds. Surrounding the square, rationalist architecture from the fascist period designed by Vittorio Morpurgo. Several lines, monumental proportions, a modern Rome imposed to the ancient one. And then a contemporary interruption, the glass structure by Richard Mayer, built to protect the Pacis. Transparent, controversial, mystically modern. Finally, the recent renovation of the piazza, stone, water, space restored to daily life. A square no longer frozen in history, but returned to the people who live around it. Here, Rome doesn't choose one era over another, it lets them coexist. But let's return to Via del Corso. From here on, no more Roman temples. This is the temple of shopping. At the intersection of Largo Goldoni and Via del Corso, the walk turns into a choice, and suddenly it becomes a dilemma. To the right, the call of luxury, the Fendi flagship, Roman through and through, at least until very recently. A magnificent boutique and my personal crush since forever, the Peekaboo bag, especially in its dark grey version, a quiet homage to the San Pietrini I hold so dear. To the left, another kind of temptation, Via Condotti, where luxury shopping is guaranteed, leading all the way to Piazza di Spagna, a detour that is almost mandatory. Unless, of course, your mission today is high street shopping. In this case, stay on Via del Corso, where Zara, Mango, Uniqlo and the familiar names line the street. On the left, however, don't miss Via Borgognona. It may seem unassuming, but as quiet luxury goes, it keeps every promise. And just beyond, Via Fratina immediately announces its tone, elegance, style and Roman flair, no need for signs. A few steps further down, on the right, Piazza San Lorenzo in Lucina, perfect for completing your luxury shopping or sipping a coffee or a spritz while continuing your little study of the sociology of tourism in Rome, a research project we started back at Piazza del Popolo. On the square, the Church of San Lorenzo in Lucina. Its origin go back to the 4th century through the current Baroque facade, and interiors date mostly from the 17th century. Inside, history and art converge. The tomb of Nicolas Poussin rests here, a quiet reminder of Rome's artistic gravitas. And until recently, a restored period fresco even included a portrait of Giorgia Meloni, crafted by a devoted artisan, so in love that legend says the subject's visage had to be changed when matters didn't go as planned. Rome is nothing if not full of stories like this. And a small note, even without any intention to shop, the Zara and Apple store are worth visiting for their intrinsic architectural beauty alone. Because in Rome, even shopping comes with a sense of place. If you'd like to go further, you can find us on strangerinroma.com. On the website, you will find practical information to help you navigate the city with ease. We also offer a selection of curated services designed to help you experience the city differently. Rome in Motion, our signature walking experience, curated shopping experiences, never rushed, never generic. Everything is designed to fit your rhythm, your interests, and your time in Rome. All the details are waiting for you on the website. Once you've done your part in boosting the prêt-à-porter economy, take a moment to look at where some of that money is actually decided. Just a few steps further down Via del Corso, on the right, Piazza Colonna. At its center, the column of Marco Aurelius, dating from the late 2nd century AD, recently restored, its spiral reliefs shine again, telling the story of imperial power carved in stone. Facing it, Palazzo Chigi, built in the 16th century and later redesigned by Carlo Fontana. It is today the seat of the Italian government. Here, political power operates quietly, almost eclipsed by the monument in front of it. A little further on, still on the right, Piazza Montecitorio, home of the Palazzo Montecitorio, seat of the Chamber of Deputies. Designed in the 17th century by Bernini and later completed by Carlo Fontana, its baroque curves meet the strict geometry of politics. In front of it stands an ancient Egyptian obelisk brought to Rome in antiquity. Even modern power here bows to something older. And just beyond, the Galleria Alberto Sordi, originally built in the early 20th century in a refined Art Nouveau style. It is now a covered passageway, part shopping arcade, part urban saloon, a place to cross, to linger, to watch Roman life pass by. Fashion, power, history, on Via del Corso, they all walk side by side. Once again, Via del Corso presents you with a dilemma. On the right, near the Venchi chocolate shop, take a turn and you will find yourself in Piazza di Pietra. Here stands the Temple of Hadrian, built in the 2nd century AD to honor the emperor. Today, its monumental Corinthian columns frame the former Roman stock exchange, an ancient architecture repurposed for modern power. Rome adapting as always. And if you continue straight from here, just a little further, you will arrive at the Pantheon, one of those moments when Rome casually delivers a masterpiece. But there is another option. If instead you take at the left the narrow passage lined with bookstalls and walk straight ahead, you'll reach the Trevi fountain, a 18th century baroque spectacle designed by Nicola Salvi and completed by Giuseppe Panini. Water, stone, theatre, and wishes whispered over shoulders ever since. So what should you choose? In my opinion, there is no place to decide. This is where you go all-inclusive. Everything included, Rome doesn't like being edited, and neither should you. Back on Via del Corso, one last detour. On the right, head towards St. Ignazio, a baroque masterpiece and one of Rome's greatest trompe-l'œil experiences. The ceiling, of course, painted at the late 17th century by Andrea Pozzo, it opens the church to an imaginary sky, dissolving architecture into illusion. But look again, the dome too is a trompe-l'œil. There is no real dome here, only paint, perspective, and genius. A small tip, be smart, there is no real need to queue for the mirror, unless you're carrying something bulky. You can see the illusion perfectly, well, just by lifting your head. And the best place to see both the ceiling and the fake dome is marked on the floor by a simple star. Stand here, look up, and let Rome fool you gently. Outside, Piazza di Sant'Ignazio mirrors the spirit of the church. Designed in the 18th century, its curved facades play with space and perception, turning the square itself into a quite architectural stage. Back on Via del Corso, our work is coming to an end. The Victoriano is already inside. On the left, a short stop at San Marcello al Corso, an ancient church rebuilt in the 16th century after a fire and deeply loved by Romans. Inside, a wooden crucifix said to have survived the flames, still carried in procession during times of crisis. Just outside, a quick glance at Santa Maria in Vialata, one of Rome's oldest Christian sites, traditionally linked to St. Paul's stay in the city. History here runs quietly, almost beneath your feet. And nearby, the Facchino, a small Renaissance fountain depicting a water carrier, a humble figure, and one of Rome's talking statues, once used by the people to voice anonymous criticism of power. Even stone in Rome has an opinion. We are already at Palazzo Doria Pamphilj, an absolute must, both for the private apartments and for the gallery, home to masterpieces by Velázquez, Caravaggio and beyond. And don't miss the Café Doria, dim, intimate, almost Caravaggesque. Perfect for a coffee or even a moment of work. Yes, the Wi-Fi is included. We arrive at Piazza Venezia, on the corner Palazzo Bonaparte, once home to Napoleon's mother, now hosts major temporary exhibitions. A discreet facade, a long history of watching the city go by from behind its green shutters. If you turn left, Palazzo Colonna awaits, still owned by the same family. It is well worth a visit for its grand apartments and its hidden gardens, a pocket of calm just steps from the traffic. And finally, Piazza Venezia itself. The Victoriano stands ahead, monumental as ever. Through, for now, the metro works dominate the view. Rome reminding us, once again, that even eternity comes with a scaffolding. This was Via del Corso, a straight line through layers of Rome, and as always, more than it seems. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. See you soon on the next video. Arrivederci. Ciao ciao.